Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the D.D. Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the D.D. Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief. I am TJ Jackson, and with me I have my eldest brother, Taj Jackson.
What's up, TJ?
What is going on, Taj? We are live, of course, on the Power of Love. If you are watching us on Facebook or YouTube, thanks for joining us. You could also be listening to us on our podcast, which is available on all the podcast streaming platforms, Apple Music, Spotify. What else, Taj? Google has one, right?
I'm sure they have to. I don't know their service.
But yes, we are all on the podcast as well. So if you didn't know that and you missed an episode, or you don't have time, you can always listen to us on your way to work and or on a drive, wherever you want to go. But disclaimer, let's get straight into it. We are not licensed therapists. We are just ordinary people who have experienced loss in our lives. We've been impacted by it, and we've learned from it. Saying that, if you need professional help, we urge you to seek it and to find it. Do not just rely on us. Today's date is October 14, as in October 14th. And Taj, I know we go back and forth whether we're going to do this, but just wanted to check in to see if there's anything exciting going on in your life, anything worth sharing.
A couple things worth sharing. Papa T's birthday's tomorrow. Our dad's birthday. Very important birthday. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Second, I would say mention that Prime Day ends tonight, I think. Amazon Prime, and gives you an opportunity, if you do buy something on Amazon, search for DDJF, D.D. Jackson Foundation, because there's something called Smile, which everything you buy, a percentage of that, like a small percentage, goes to DDJF.
Very small percent,
but it adds up. So
that's right.
Every little bit counts. So if you are going to go on a spending spree at Amazon, think of us.
Yes, and Taj, like I gotta talk to the team about getting you some type of raise, because that's a true co-host, mentioning Prime Day and mentioning the fact that you could support DDJF that way. We know it's not easy to always make donations. But outside of spreading the word and sharing and doing that stuff, it seems like everyone's on Amazon. So, and that's just not for Prime Day. That's in general.
Yes.
Whenever you buy on Amazon,
and it's not added on top of the price. It's actually just this. It would be the same price you always pay. Amazon makes the donation.
Exactly, and basically, it's simply as clicking a link, and it takes you to your regular Amazon page. It says you'll just see an Amazon smile on the corner, and that's how you'll know that you're actually donating to DDJF. And like Taj says, it's not a lot, it's not a big amount, it's not a big percentage, but every little bit counts.
It's for a lot of classes, which is great.
That's 100%. So well done on sharing that, Taj. Okay, cool. So I think the only other thing you told me to go shop. I'm sorry, did you say something?
But Taj and TJ told me to go shop.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to get anyone in trouble now.
Shopping sprees coming up. Okay, go ahead.
Well, since you mentioned Amazon Prime and our DDJF link and how you can help DDJF through Amazon Prime, I'm going to mention another way you can support the foundation, and that is with our bingo event.
Yes.
That is on October 28th. And this is going to be a fun event. It's $30 to enter, but all $30 is a donation to DDJF. Again, our entire board is volunteer, so no money goes to us. It goes to our foundation, which allows us to put on the programs and do everything that we do to help those in need. So on October 28th, we are doing a bingo event at this time, 1:00, which is a Wednesday, and we are going to be playing four games of bingo. So you get 4 opportunities to win. And I think we're still working out on the prizes. Next week, I'll definitely know what they are. But they're going to be fun. And again, it's just a cool way in this crazy time to fundraise and to, connect with our community. So Make sure you get your tickets for that. Make sure you join us. And let's see. Todd, how are you in bingo? Bingo's all luck though, right?
I don't know. I haven't played bingo in a long time, but I'm good at these kind of things.
Isn't bingo 100% luck though? It's just a matter of what card.
I'm good at this. I don't know what it is about those certain things like roulette and bingo. I hit those things.
So I remember
when we used to go to Vegas with mom and dad, and at the lunch or at the restaurant, you could play bingo in between and stuff like that. Yeah.
Was that the Riviera, right?
I don't know which one.
No, that's Keno.
Oh, is it?
Yes, that's Keno. But you know what? It's like that. It's like that.
It's similar though. It's a ball and it's picking with you.
Keno, I think you have numbers and then I don't know.
We're gonna letters or whatever. It doesn't matter.
You know the saddest thing.
I'm fire, whatever it is.
The saddest thing is I think bingo's like the easiest game you can play, and we still don't even know the rules. But either way, we are going to be there. Both of us are going to be there. We're going to have some fun.
I'm going to win.
And Tosh says he's winning. I said I'm winning. So that means there's 2 games up left to win for everyone else. All right. That was fun. Okay. So let's see. Let's go right into it, Taj. We have a really special guest coming on. And this kind of show is one that I'm super excited about because our guest is coming on to share her story. And her story is, although it's unique, it's one that I've heard from people that have experienced similar things. And I really don't know much about this. And I'm so honored and happy to have someone on to share information and the experience that they go through so that we all can be more informed. And again, if someone out there is experiencing the same thing, it's just a reminder that you are not alone. So what am I talking about? I am talking about autism. And this is, like I said, I believe our very first time doing a show, Taj, correct me if I'm wrong, based on autism. And I think it's something that is well over, what's the word, Taj? Overdue. Yeah, and I'm happy to do that. So to welcome Amelia Green onto our show. So before I let her, or I should say, join her in the show, we got to give a quick little bio and a briefing of who Amelia Green is. She's a 38-year-old essential mother, wife, and worker living in beautiful upstate New York. She grew up in Brooklyn and moved upstate as a child. And as a young adult, she found her husband and a 10-year career in community mental health services. When their first son was born in 2007, Amelia immediately felt something wasn't right. At 25, she followed her gut until she finally got a diagnosis of severe autism for her son before he was 18 months old. By the age of 9, he has also had a diagnosis of severe refractory epilepsy, which led to numerous hospitalizations and doctor visits. This started the next phase of her journey with a wedding, 2 more sons, and a master's degree in autism and applied behavior and analysis.
Analysis? Oh, wait, now
we sound so bad right now. Okay, so Amelia is probably laughing and she's going to correct us, but I'm going to keep it going. And it's not even a hard word. It's just my mind's not working. She then started a career helping individuals and those who loved them living with developmental and physical disabilities. When the pandemic hit, Amelia found herself in a highly stressful job as an administrator overseeing 9 group homes for the disabled. Realizing it was time to put her family and herself first, she started a new job in June, working with early educators as an infant and toddler mental health consultant. Besides her sons, who she loves the most, Amelia also enjoys her houseplants, music, sneakers, Hello Kitty, and spending time with her friends who are more like family. Without much further ado, is that the right phrase?
Further ado, I think.
Oh my goodness, Taj.
Okay. I think is
okay. Anyways, we are excited to welcome on to the Power of Love, Miss Amelia Green. Amelia, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Well, doing well, but tripping over words we shouldn't be tripping over. So please, what was the word I was struggling? Analysis. Yeah.
Don't touch your older brother.
You had it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't come out right out your mouth either, Taj. But Amelia, first of all, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. What an honor.
Well, you are going to be a special guest for us because, like I said in the intro, we have never had someone to speak about autism and teach us about autism. And besides that, you have a serious background in mental health and even a master's degree in autism and applied behavior analysis. So, so with all that said, I do want to tell our community, if you do have questions of your own, feel free to ask. This is a good time, and Amelia, I'm sure, is down to share anything she can. So feel free to ask. Okay, so Amelia, first of all, thank you again for joining us. I want to say, I guess I'll start this question off with right here. Did you know anything about autism when you first were, I should say, when you were pregnant?
So no, I had seen autism like probably everybody else had seen back then, on TV or in movies. I thought autism was people who could count really fast or, could play the piano. I had no idea. And there I was, a brand new mom, sitting in the bathroom reading a parent's magazine that was sent home from the hospital. And I said, that's it. That's what my son has. It's autism. And I went to the doctor, his next appointment, saying, I think my son has autism. And they said, you're a first-time mom. You should relax and enjoy him. And I said, okay. And I came back 2 months later saying, I'm relaxed. I enjoy him, but I think he has autism. And I kept doing that until I had him evaluated by the county at 17 months old. And he started a full day of school at 18 months old. This little guy that his backpack knocked him over like a turtle, started a full day of services. And we had people come into our homes and teach us how to work with him and how to become part of his world. And it became my passion.
Nice. Beautiful. I was going to ask how it changed your life, but I see you embraced it and learned and you got a degree on it. So anything else you would add to how it changed your life?
I think there just came a point for me where I realized that this was going to be something I lived with the rest of my life, not just my son, but myself. And we could either let this break us or we could do the whole Phoenix thing and rise from the ashes. And I didn't want to go through this just for me or my son. I could see so many other families that were suffering, the same ways that we were. And I don't mean suffering like it was horrible, but just the fear, the guilt, the worry, all of that. And those parents didn't have the same opportunities I had. There were parents who English was their second language, or they didn't have a high school diploma. And I kept saying, their kids deserve the same chance as mine. These circumstances shouldn't make it so that my son has a better leg up. So it pushed me to go and get that degree so that A, I'd be taken seriously by the people on my son's team, and B, so that I could live this experience and have those letters behind my name that would make it mean something for somebody else.
Beautiful. Beautiful. In your bio, you mentioned you felt something wasn't right when your son was born. First, can you explain that a bit? And then second, what advice would you give to other parents who may be feeling that way and don't quite know what to do to get a proper diagnosis?
So for my son, it wasn't any of those, typical things you see on a list. He just didn't connect to other people. Even as a baby, he didn't want to be held by other people. He didn't respond to his name. And I remember all the little things, like if you touched his feet, he would cringe, he would recoil. It was too much for him, even as a brand new baby. And I think my advice to all of the other parents is the advice I wish somebody had given me at that point, which was, just follow your gut. If your gut and your instincts are telling you that something is not right, don't let somebody else tell you that your gut isn't right. You have to follow that through until the very end. I was a brand new mom. I was literally like a child before I had that boy. And I knew I just had that, that wherewithal to say, no, I'm not taking this for an answer. And I hope that every parent knows that, even if that first doctor says no, you can go to somebody else. You can always go ask somebody else. You can always go find another parent. You know, even if I'm that person now that's going to be the one that tells you, yes, you're right, follow your gut, there's somebody out there who's going to listen.
A question: what is the biggest misconception when it comes to autism?
It's so hard because autism is a spectrum. So I think the biggest misconception is, you know, that all people with autism are similar, because they're not. I have, now that I've worked with so many people with autism, there are so many beautiful colors in this rainbow of a spectrum. I mean, there are just people of all different interests and likes and abilities, and there's beauty in every single one of them if you take the time to see it. It's about taking the time to meet somebody where they are and not pushing them into your expectations. I have gotten to see some of the most beautiful things the human spirit has created by just letting people be themselves and not pushing them to fit my box.
Before we came live, Amelia, I was talking about your background and how refreshing it looks. And then Miss Phoenix also said, I love her outside view, too refreshing since I'm inside. I just wanted to mention it again. Miss Phoenix, you are not alone. I was just telling Amelia how relaxing and serene her background looks. Question from Anne is, as a teacher, how can I best deal with an autistic student?
I think it's always a team approach. You know, for me as a mom, I always want to be part of the team. If there's struggles at school, ask at home what's going on. You know, ask how you guys can work together. One of the biggest things to help somebody with autism is consistency. If things are different at home than they are at school, you know, that's why a lot of people with autism have trouble out in the world in like a shopping mall, because there's so much that's out of our control, right? So I think it's that communication is key for helping anybody with autism. It's communicating with the people around them, and it's also learning how they communicate, you know, even if it's not verbally. My son is 13 now, so he is full on into those teenage years. And also isn't verbal. So, I mean, I have to really think about, like, is this autism? Is this he's a teenager and hates my guts? You know, is this epilepsy? What's going on? And a lot of the times it's just, he's a 13-year-old boy expressing himself in the ways that he can. You know?
Yeah.
So just being understanding is the most important thing.
Great. Okay. Casey says, my son is autistic and he struggles to connect with kids his age. Any suggestions?
I think it's just trying and trying again, you know, trying different things, trying different modes. I think now during the pandemic, we've all been pushed to be really creative. You know, we've had to push ourselves to find out new ways of doing things. So maybe it's finding out what works for your son, you know, trying different places, different activities. But I think it's just never giving up. That's the key to all of this, is never giving up and keep trying.
Michael asks, is there different stages of autism?
Well, there are different stages of human development, and autism certainly impacts it differently for everybody. But like we said, autism is a spectrum, so it's different for everybody. You know, autism impacts people socially. It impacts them cognitively in how they learn. It impacts them in how they communicate. So it's really different for everybody, but it does change with the different stages of life. I can tell you, I've had an autistic infant and a toddler and a little guy and now a teenager. So it all goes through the cycle of life for sure.
Okay, I didn't know if Taj was going to ask something. Okay, and I have. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Taj.
I'm always curious when someone takes an initiative and goes beyond a situation in that way. Did you grow up that way? In that way, did your parents that kind of taught you to take a issue and just dive head first and then give back to others, or is it something that you just naturally have in that way?
I don't know if I've ever really thought that far into it. I grew up with diabetes from a really young age. I was 3 when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So I was kind of, you know, the sick child who was a little sheltered. And my mom certainly did a lot to make sure that I felt included. But I think it was really seeing the environment that I was living in. I mean, when my son was diagnosed 12 years ago, the rate of autism was 1 in 100 and something children. And every year since his diagnosis, we just saw that go up and up and up until it was 1 out of every 50. And I just kept saying, I can't just sit here. I can't just sit here. This is impacting everybody at this point.
Yeah.
So I think it was partially, yes, my parents have always, instilled social justice in me and standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves and all of that. But I think this was something that I was meant to be this boy's mom. I was meant to have this be my mission. I like to say I gave birth to my cause, and nothing could be truer. And I mean, it's true. It's really true.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, Amelia. That's really beautiful. I have another question for you. Are there waves, like moments where it's really difficult to deal with, and then sometimes where you wouldn't even notice a difference? Because I've never experienced interacting, at least in length, with an autistic person. So I'm curious to know, are there waves? How would you explain that?
So for my son, he's on what we would call the severe end of the autism spectrum. He's not verbal, he's not toilet trained. And especially now that we are full on into puberty, those waves can be rough. We had time periods where, there was a 6-month period where he was hurting himself. He couldn't express himself. He was so frustrated. And here's my little 8-year-old with hundreds of bruises because he's pinching himself and biting himself out of frustration. I don't think there's a worse feeling in the world as a mother. And then to add that I went and got a degree in this and still couldn't help him, it felt like a double failure. That was a really hard period of time. And I think that was one of those periods of time that I learned to kind of take my own advice that I dish out so freely of, be patient, remain positive, remember who you're doing this for. Throughout all of this, there is this sweet, sweet guy inside my Alex, whether he can express himself or not, and whether what he wants and what makes him happy is the same as the rest of us, is completely indifferent. He is capable of so much joy. The other day, I found out he's still ticklish. I haven't tickled that boy in so long because he's like 5'2" now and he towers almost over me.
Beautiful.
He is still ticklish, and he fell on the floor laughing, and we just went back and forth for 15 minutes tickling him. And you know what? When it gets really bad next week and I'm changing all those diapers and we're having a bad day, I can go back to that day that we giggled on the carpet. So you just got to remember those good times.
I love that answer, Amelia. Very sweet and wonderful answer. And, in particular, when you're talking about even with your degree, you've still that kind of added to the sense of loss and failure because you couldn't figure it out. And, you had to take your own advice and to take a step back and remember who you're doing it for. And that's so powerful and so important to hear. So I thank you for sharing it, not only for me and my brother and the foundation, but for everyone in our community. I think it's so important to remind each other of that.
Well, thank you guys for having me on to talk about this. Like, I think this is so great. I mean, you're talking about grief and loss, and one of the things we don't talk about with autism is the grief. The grief of losing what you thought you were going to have as a parent and losing that experience you thought you were going to have. I'm now facing the grief of, we realized this year Alex was in middle school. He hasn't been in a regular, typical school. So I missed that whole transition to middle school. I'm about to miss driver's license and prom season and all of those. So, I mean, the grief of a disability is really real, and it's ongoing, and it's something that we have to address in order to be the best we can be for these people who really need us.
Love it. Powerful. You mentioned a couple answers ago how I don't know if the term would be probability, but it seems like it's getting more and more common. What do you attribute to that?
I mean, I think part of it is our diagnostic process is better. I had a grandfather who back in the 30s was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He definitely had autism, but, they labeled it as something else back then. I also personally believe that there is some environmental factors in this. The world that we live in is so full of things that weren't in our world 50, 60, 70 years ago. When you talk about all the plastics and the chemicals and all of this and that, there hasn't been any research. So, I mean, this is just me speaking from my gut, but I think that must have something to do with it somewhere deep down inside. But I think a big part of it is just we recognize autism now. We didn't recognize it before.
Yeah, and the second part of that question, which I just thought of, is, I have kids, Taj has kids, and one thing that as a parent, at least for us on who aren't in the autism world, one thing we always worry about are vaccinations. Do you think there's any correlation there?
No, absolutely not. I have 3 sons, all the same father, all the same mother, born in the same hospital with the same set of doctors, got the same immunizations, and my one son has severe autism. I would rather have healthy children that I don't have to worry about polio in this world than the chance that my son might get autism, because my son might get autism no matter what.
Good. Okay. Great answer. Okay. So another thing that I don't know much about is refractory epilepsy. So can you first explain what that is?
So that's just severe epilepsy that's been really resistant to medication. So my son, we've had to go through a whole lot of different meds.
Uh-oh. Lost it, right?
Yeah, we lost
I
it.
don't know. I'm back.
There you
I'm
are.
sorry.
You're back.
All right, you're back.
You're
So I
back.
was just saying, it's just medication resistant epilepsy. So it's been hard to treat. We've had to see quite a few specialists and try some new meds, but we're in a good spot now, which is great.
Now, your son has refractory epilepsy. How does
He does. So that's a lifetime diagnosis. His epilepsy, unfortunately, will never go away. We're just going to work to keep it controlled and maintained and keep him happy and healthy.
Okay. Now that's not, is there any correlation?
So there is actually a high correlation between seizure disorders and autism. Around 70% of people with autism will be diagnosed with a seizure disorder at some point in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Question, how has the pandemic changed or altered your life?
A whole lot. Can I say it that way? A whole lot. So my boy got diagnosed before the age of 2. He's been getting therapy 12, 13 times a week since the age of 2. We went from that to March, school stopped, and he didn't see anybody for months. He's not a child who can do virtual learning. He's not a child who can really engage in that way at all. So it left us really kind of scrambling with what we could do to help him. It's also hard when you have autism just to have people stick around. That sounds terrible, but it is tough. It does get hard. We've had a lot of people come and go in our lives. So to find people that stay, we're really lucky. My mom bought a house up the road from us last year. And I mean, this was something we did thinking about Alex in the long term. How are we going to care for him? By building his community here. This is who his community is. Let's bring them closer. So luckily I had my mom nearby. I also have 2 younger sons who really helped a lot, whether it was just including Alex in what they were doing, or one of them taught him to open the microwave. I'd really like to know who did that. It did not work out so well by the end of the pandemic when he was taking popcorn out. But, it was that sort of stuff about like, maybe we have to just forget the academics and just focus on what we can do to help him in the world he's living in now. And the world he's living in now is within our 4 walls. So let's make this work. So we kind of made it work. He's back in school now, which is great. But that comes with its own fears and concerns at the same time, now that he's going out into this scary world. And he is somebody with, pre-existing conditions that make him more vulnerable. So we're being really careful, but trying to figure out what's best for him.
How do you stay positive during all this and during this difficult time? It's hard for even us to stay, positive and upbeat. How are you doing it?
I always said, I got a special needs parenting package upgrade, and that comes with unlimited optimism. You can't run this path without having eternal optimism and positivity. So I think I've really I've really just tried to focus on the positives, through all of this. This was one time in our life, quarantine was nothing new to my family. We don't go anywhere anyway because it's difficult at times. It's uncomfortable for Alex. It's not easy doing those things. So quarantining wasn't hard for us. So I think that made it easy to be a little positive. I was a big help to other people. Like, you got this, you can do this. I got all kinds of activities you can do with your children at home, those sorts of things. So I think we were a little more prepared for this than other people. But I think the other part is I just know how much I have to be grateful for. We all should realize how much we have to be grateful for. We've lived through so much in the last 7 months. And I'm here talking to the two of you with an audience of people looking to get something out of this. I'm really hoping that this is just going to make us all nicer people. I'm hoping we're going to come out of this kinder and more patient and more grateful for everything we have. So I'm going to keep that going for as long as I possibly can and hope this pandemic ends soon.
Yes. Well, I think you've already taught me a lot, and I think from reading the comments, you've taught a lot of our community a lot. So thank you. I usually like to ask, and this isn't the question or the time that I told you that you'd get to talk about whatever you want, but I usually also like to ask our guest, if a new parent found out that their son or child was just diagnosed with autism, what would you tell them if you were talking to them directly?
That's still your baby. That still is your baby. Nothing has changed. You get to figure out what their future is going to look like with them. And really set your dreams, set your goals. Don't give up. That is your baby. And that child is going to live the best life that you can give them. So do it for you. Do it for them. It's going to be beautiful no matter what.
Beautiful. That was amazing. Taj Jackson, do you have any questions before we give Amelia her minute to talk about whatever she wants to talk about?
No, I mean, everything you're saying, it's I think that we've done shows on gratitude and stuff like that, but it's always great to hear people that have faced something and there's still gratitude beyond it, and it resonates with you, and there's a certain radiance towards you, and I'm just so appreciative that you're on the show. And I'm reading the comments as TJ and you are talking, and it's just like everyone is so happy that we're tackling this situation, or at least talking about it, and that you're on the show giving advice, but not only advice, just optimism, as you said. It's amazing. So thanks.
Oh, thank you guys.
All right, Amelia, it's that time. It sounds so serious, but it's not.
It's not.
And before we get into this, I should say this. Camp TLC. So I don't know. We know the connection. We share a board member. And do you want to just talk real quick about Camp TLC?
I could talk about Camp TLC all day. So I'm actually on the board of Camp TLC, but that's because Camp TLC changed my and my family's life. Camp TLC is an amazing organization, Camp Together, Living a Challenge. They do camps for children and families of children with special needs and medical concerns. They do camp for children dealing with grief and loss. There are camps in downtown LA for foster children. It is run by one of my dearest friends, Caroline, who has the biggest heart in the whole wide world. And I am so happy to be a part of giving back to so many people. So if you can, give to Camp TLC, check them out, tell them I sent you, and do some good for the world.
I love it. And well said. Caroline's also a board member for us, and we've done a lot of stuff with Camp TLC. It's a great group. Fantastic. So I just wanted to make sure we gave Camp TLC some love, because it's been great for us, and like I said, a lot of the kids that we've been sharing with and working with. So
it changed my son's lives. I can't say enough. My typically developing sons and my son with autism, their lives were changed for the better by Camp TLC. So please support them.
Nice.
Love it. Okay, Amelia, it's that time. And it's, I don't want to, put you on the spot, but basically 30 seconds to a minute to talk about whatever you want our community to hear.
I guess what I want the community to hear is is people with autism are here, and we as a society have to move past autism awareness and move into autism acceptance. We have to learn to accept people for who they are, not who we want them or think that they should be. And we have to create an environment and a community that's accepting and welcoming for everybody. It's not about color. It's not about creed. It's not about gender, race, or ability. And we have to include all of that. We just have to come together and just show so much kindness to all of us. We all deserve it. We all need it. And I mean, people with disabilities have always needed a little bit more. So I'm hoping that now we're going to come out of this pandemic and be ready to accept and love people for who they are.
Beautiful. What can we do to help? What would you say for us who don't have much knowledge or don't have much experience with autism? What would you ask from us in the outside?
Do some research. I mean, do a little research. Go beyond just a basic Google search where you're going to read about, vaccines and hand flapping and that kind of stuff. Learn a little bit, but more than that, teach your children. That's where we're going to make a difference. When your children play with my children, we've made a difference. And that's how we move forward as a society. Teaching your children not to call names, not to point, teaching them to ask the question. That is the best thing that we can do right now, I think.
Love it. All right, Amelia, we are out of time, but I just want to thank you on behalf of my brother Taj and our foundation, and on behalf of our community, for joining us, for enlightening us, and spreading some great information and love regarding autism. I think it was brilliant, and like I said, I learned so much, and I love your spirit. Your family is lucky to have you, and you are welcome back to our show anytime. So if there's any events or anything that you want to talk about, just let us know, and please come back.
World Autism Awareness Day is in April, so I hope I'll see you guys then, if not sooner.
Let's book it. Done. So we will be seeing you in April, and I think that would be great. And anything you want to talk about or anything you think will be great for our community, let's do that. Let's make sure we spread that awareness in April.
Awesome. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we are going to close. On behalf of all three of us, we want to thank you guys for watching or for listening to this show. God bless everyone. We will see you guys next Wednesday at 1:00. Take care of yourself and stay safe.